This is the Sunday Roast. For a fantastic dining experience, head to a Barreau Hotel, the Albion, Birkenhead Tavern, Lighthouse Wharf or Excelsior.
It is the Sunday Roast. Morning, everyone. Lee Forrest alongside Tim Ginniver. Timmy's choosing the music again. If you've got any sporting issue on your mind, 8223 might be the footy yesterday from Albert and Port Adelaide. Too strong for the Kangaroos. 19-9 to 16-6, 123 to 102. That's the thing. If you look through, apart from the game on Friday night, everyone's kicking around the hundreds. You know, Melbourne 97, the Lions 104, Hawthorn 87, Richmond 55.
Be interesting to see what happens in season.
In the regular season. How long before Clarko and his evil geniuses come up with some way to sort of flood in some way? Because at the moment, it's a pretty free-flowing game, which we are loving. And we loved Port Adelaide's performance yesterday. I mean, at half-time, 80-odd points. High-scoring first quarter, high-scoring first half. You thought they're going to kick 30 goals here. Do we put it down to our next guest? He's arrived and all of a sudden they're just shooting the lights out?
I'll say yes.
Brett Montgomery joins us, assistant coach at Port. Morning, Brett.
Morning, how are we?
All right, Monty, all right. Look, the first quarter, what an amazing scene. I mean, we kicked the first goal. The Kangaroos came back. I think they kicked 6 in a row at one stage. And then there was a late flood of 4 goals, I reckon, by Port to make it 7-1 to 7-2, the highest scoring first quarter in pre-season AFL history. How about that?
I think it just shows us, Timmy, that we're probably poles apart in terms of what coaches like seeing and what fans like seeing.
Yeah.
But I think the fan in us all says these improvements or these changes are great for the game. But it did make us a little uneasy watching that centre bounce play in the first quarter, that's for sure. I was just listening to your comments then about Clarko, and I think what the AFL's done on this one is, unless Clarko can get at the rules committee and the powers to be, this one's here to stay and will have a significant impact on this season. Centre bounce has become quite devastating.
No doubt about that. Can Clarko or anybody else stop the 250 metres in a row rule? Can anybody stop that?
Well, I think if I'm not too sure others, general players' ears were on when the AFL came out and talked us through that rule, because it was pretty black and white for us. But in terms of the 50 and the 100, it's quite a big penalty, isn't it, if you're not on song or you don't actually understand the rule yourself. It's an uninterrupted run. You're best as a player just to get out of the way and let someone else take care of it. But the player who's actually receiving that penalty now is smart enough to try and get some body contact and pull that extra 50.
Well, you know how bad a rule it is, Monty, when all of a sudden Justin Westhoff, who nobody's ever heard talk, started acting like John McEnroe. Like, he was just going ballistic. And surely they have to change that in 2 weeks, because it's, as I said to Tim earlier, it's effectively just gifting a goal every time, because the player gets on his skates and they'll run him to the square.
To the players' credit, they do generally adapt pretty quickly, and I think we're probably only seeing one a game at most venues too. So I would imagine that in a week's time, it'll almost be done and dusted. I think the players will understand. The coaches will coach really clearly around having that player either making a really clear decision to get out the way, or to get and retreat back and pull back and make sure they're in no danger of any body contact, because it's too harsh a penalty.
Not wrong. Hey, the first half, and it was funny, we were commentating right next to the Kangaroos box, and as they come out, David Wildy was commenting, just wrapping up the quarter, saying, an amazing quarter of 7 goals apiece, and I'm not sure that the coaches want that. And one of them turned around and said, no, we don't want that. And that was the funny thing about it. But there was 22 goals kicked in the first half and only 13 in the second, which is still good. But was it a case of the players fatiguing, or was it more so that people started to slow the game down?
I think we, from our point of view, I think we got on top of our centre bounce issues. To give up 5 centre bounce goals in the first quarter is not how we want to be playing the game. It just doesn't give us a chance. Now with the new rules, as you've spoken about, we can't hold momentum at all. So you've got to get your shape and your contest and then your battle right in the middle. And I think we did that after half-time. I think we only conceded maybe another 1 or 2 for the remainder of the game. So that sort of took their one wood away that was keeping them dominant in the first quarter.
Yep.
I think as the game played, general play, we sort of controlled the tempo of the game for most of it. albeit we probably overdid it a little bit. I don't think we want to be taking 140 marks every week. So we're still clearly searching for our balance between pace levels, but we're certainly not going to compromise on the excitement levels. We're really keen to see where this takes us.
And the back line itself, Jared Lena, how serious is that one? Is he out for weeks or is he a chance at round one?
So we're still a little bit unclear about that one. He had a little knee episode about 5-6 weeks ago, which only sort of put him out of training for about 8 days. This one is more medial, but again, we're a little bit uncertain at this point how serious, but we don't think that's too significant. Whether it's a week or two, we'll just have to wait and see.
And the young guys, there's been a caller already, but they've been so exciting to watch, and they've all performed in the 2 games, and it's been sort of bubbling along, and Butters seems to be a very class act. But his concern was how do you keep a lid on that, and how do you keep it tempered while they just keep going about doing their job? And I said, look, at times that's a really tough one for the coaching staff of those young talents.
I think we've probably got a bit of that, and then we'll also have in equal part making sure we manage not only their keeping a lid on it and their excitement levels, but also their energies and their workloads to make sure that whilst we're not going to be relying on those 2 or 3 first-year players to play every week and win us games and keep us competitive, we are looking to see what they can bring in the early part of the year. So I think it's a pretty big task by all our staff, both conditioning and coaching, to make sure we've got the cherry right. I think as what we can clearly see, our fans and our coaches and our players can see, they're going to bring a different dynamic that we've been looking for quite some time, and one that really tailors into the excitement we're trying to play with. So I think all 3 are putting their names up in lights, but as we know, the spots get pretty tight in what is probably only 2 weeks away.
Hey, Monty, if you're a betting person, let's add Willem Drew to that as well. Of those 4, how many could debut, do you think? Is there a chance all 4 could?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think Drewy has been fantastic, and he's just someone who does the really simple things really well. He turns up where he needs to. His fundamentals are good. He's really honest in the way he goes about it. He plays both sides of the ball. So look, if he's not in that round 1 team, I'd be very surprised. But again, if he's not, he won't be too far away.
And I was watching yesterday to see who would go through the midfield. We saw Travis Boak have another really good day. Tommy Rockcliffe, well, that's why we got him. 41 touches and doesn't waste too many of them either. But I reckon I saw up to sort of, including the ruckman, 9 guys sort of rotate through there. That's going to continue on?
Yeah, well, that's certainly the look we're trying to achieve, Timmy. We're trying to keep, whilst we might give up a bit of expertise and a bit of confidence for a skill set inside, we're going to go down the path of a bit more energy and bubble and see if we can change it up a little bit more in terms of flexibility. I think if we stick the same, even if it is Ollie back in the team, if we stick the same 3 or 4 in there for long periods of time, we'll see them go flat.
Yep. We
see us get a little bit one trick and one pace. So, yeah, that's certainly the model we're looking at the moment. And again, I think that also breaks those half forwards and deep forwards their day up as well.
Yep.
Make sure that they can get a bit of a look and not get too tied down too. So it's a model we've seen work around the AFL over the last few years. One that some clubs have gone away from in recent years and some have really ramped it up. So we're having a look at it.
Speaking of Port Adelaide assistant Brett Montgomery, the fans loving it. Brett, you're playing with pace and you're being bold and there's dash. Just get your players to look out for each other a little bit, Brett. How are the heads of Robbie Gray and Paddy Ryder this morning?
I think they're not too bad. Whilst it might sound a little bit barbaric to say that Paddy's injury is not as bad as it sounds with that sort of depressed fracture. It's, as I'm told, it's a relatively simple procedure to get it back to how it needs to be, and sometimes you don't miss a lot of time at all. Both boys were cleared of concussion, which is a great sign. As a coach, you don't often get too upset when you get 2 of your players going as hard as that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a little bit of a downside for Paddy, and he's such an important player for us. So we'll have to wait and see how he pulls up.
And Jack Watts playing down back seems to be working. He attacked a couple really fiercely. He guided the ball left and right as he's got that very high skill level from behind. So pleased with his pre-season so far?
Yeah, really pleased. And I think we've sort of been on record as saying that he's going to play more mid-back than anything else this year in the early parts of the year, and he's really been able to adapt and adjust to the way we want to play in team defence. We're winning the ball back just a fraction earlier than we did in the past, which gives us a better look and certainly a cleaner forward line when we go back in. And one of Jack's strengths is when he does get his hands on it, we usually keep it. We usually get going off the back of it. So, yeah, he did some minutes there against the Crows, which we were pleased. It was only a snapshot, but we got a bit more of an extended look yesterday. And he's just a happier guy in terms of his footy at the moment, and we're happy to see him behind the ball.
And the progression of Ollie Wines and Hamish Hartlett.
Yeah, I think Ollie's still tracking well ahead of schedule. Whilst no one at this point wants to put a day on it, whether he just misses round one or it's that early part, I think he's still going really well. So there's really nothing new to report other than he's ahead of schedule. And I think Hamish was, if there was a game planned for this week, he would have been ready for it, regardless of what level. And I think he's quite realistic about how he needs to build his season with the Magpies.
Yep.
So with no game this week, that gives him another week to get 2 to 3 more solid sessions in. But yeah, he would have been right to go this week.
Is there another Magpies trial that he can fit in?
So there'll be no games for anyone this week.
Right.
And then the Magpies trial that he'll roll out will be in the round 1 week of the AFL season.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Melbourne, March 23. Monty, they may be without Stephen May. They're definitely going to be without Kennedy Harris. Do you scout them as much as you can over the JLT and do a bit of coding today?
We'd probably look at our own backyard in the next few days before we turn our attention. We certainly got to look at. They played Collingwood in a scratch match. We've got to look at a little bit of a look at last week. We haven't jumped too far ahead. They do seem like they're going to have their own selection issues with guys sort of running it late to the line to get themselves fit. You obviously mentioned Stephen May, and they also have those 2 injuries in Kennedy Harris and Harms with that compound fracture of the finger. So everyone's got their own little issues at the moment. So, yeah, it'll be very, very interesting next sort of 10 days to prep for this one.
Well, Monty, well done yesterday on the win. We cannot wait. I mean, the fact that footy's back, everyone's loving, but the real stuff starts in a couple of weeks' time. Good luck to you and the coaching group and the players going forward.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Timmy.
Montgomery, assistant coach. Great man too.